Aloha. My name is Carol Pacheco, and I'm the Programs Manager for ikahi Mediation Center. Welcome to our Finding Solutions, Growing Peace Brown Bag Lunch series. Ikahi is a nonprofit community mediation center serving East Hawaii. We were founded in 1983 as a program of the island of Hawaii's YMCA, and in 2006 became our own independent nonprofit. We empower people to come together, to talk, and to listen, to explore options, and to find their own best solutions. To achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and training, like this one, to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. Our Brown Bag Lunch series is held every third Thursday at 12 noon on Zoom. You have to register on Eventbrite every time to receive the Zoom link. At the end of today's talk, we'll ask you to fill out a short online survey, which helps with our grant funding for this series. When I put the survey link in the chat at the end of the talk, please take a moment to give us your thoughts. We'll also send out an email later with the slides, video link, and a survey link. Without further ado, let me introduce our topic and our speaker. Her voice, her power, reclaiming sovereignty in conflict. Shelby Morrison is a facilitator, speaker, and writer dedicated to women's empowerment and authentic expression. Through conscious dance experiences, women's circles, and personal storytelling, she helps women unlearn the cultural conditioning that keeps them quiet and small. Her work supports women in reclaiming their power, expressing themselves fully, and raising in sisterhood, rooted in a deep commitment to collective healing and feminist liberation. Take it away, Shelby.
Aloha, everybody. It's so good to be here. I'm just going to jump right in and share my presentation with everyone. All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome, sisters. And if we have any gentlemen joining us, to Her Voice, Her Power, Reclaiming Sovereignty in Conflict. My name is Shelby K. Morrison, and I am so honored to be here. Today, we're going to dive headfirst into our subconscious programming and plant some new seeds to help us reclaim sovereignty in conflict and beyond. On the agenda for today, I'll briefly introduce myself, then we'll discuss the good girl and what that really means before reflecting on the hidden costs of our silence. From there, we'll dissect personal sovereignty, what that looks and feels like, before covering a few tools that we'll be able to practice to reclaim that sovereignty. Lastly, we'll end with some inspiration and wrap up with a little Q&A share circle. My name is Shelby K. Morrison, and I am a middle child and was born 3 months early. I was very excited to get here. But I was also brought up in the fundamentalist religion known as Mormonism, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And like all Abrahamic religions, I was taught that I was second class because I was a woman. I was raised to be the silent good girl, as was my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother. But back to my mother, she was a stay-at-home mom with no education, no job, and no ambitions outside her family, just as she was told to be. She was a very good girl, and life was good for a minute until my father decided to cheat on her with his secretary. Classic, right? And suddenly, the world my mother built came crashing down around her. Her promise of security and safety broken. As my father walked free into his new life, my mother was the one who was shamed, even though she was the exact good girl they told her to be. It only hurt her in the end. And I watched her repair her life all on her own. She went back to school, got a job, found us housing, hired a babysitter for us kids, paid the bills, all of it on her own, while they continued to look down on her. I saw the whole story So naturally, I took great issue with her being besmirched and gossiped about in church and in the community. So as a result, I grew up championing women to pursue their ambitions, to get educated, to seek positions of power, to not rely on men for safety and security. I was not well liked in my days as a Mormon. But when I finally left this religion in my 20s, I was able to see it all with stark clarity. I was a threat to the system. I was telling women the great secret that being a good girl does not serve them. It's a trap. But what is the good girl? If you're here, you've likely heard it throughout your life from your father, your husband, your church leaders, your teachers, even perhaps your bosses. Maybe it was even accompanied by a little pat on the head or arm or back. If we had to, we could identify the good girl very quickly. And we could easily do so with these three categories. She is silent. She has no opinions, especially ones that differ from any men in the room. She thinks of herself as easygoing. She is submissive. She takes orders with a smile, so obedient. She thinks she's keeping the peace. And essentially, she stays small, always sacrificing her needs and wants for the care of others around her. She thinks she's being selfless. She is such a good girl. If it felt like I just described you, you are far from being alone and you're in the right spot. But what if I told you that being a good girl isn't a personality trait or character? It's a means of survival, which means we can shed it. That's right. The good girl is a woman in survival mode. It sounds intense, but it's the truth. Everything the good girl does is with the goal of being seen as lovable. Because if she is lovable, she will be chosen. And if she's chosen, she will survive. So she shrinks to remain likable. She over-explains to be understood. She smiles when she's angry or embarrassed or upset to make sure that no one is uncomfortable with her emotion. She apologizes for just about everything, from having an opinion to if she's right about something. Just she apologizes for existing. And if you don't believe me, notice how much you say, "I'm sorry," in an average day. You'll be stunned. The good girl sacrifices her own happiness for others. And she says yes when she really wants to say no. Her whole life is focused on being agreeable, supportive, nice, likable, easy. But it's not out of desire, nor is it her natural character. It's out of fear. Fear that if she is anything other than liked, she will be cast out. Can you see why I said it's a survival mode? None of these are personality traits. These are survival tactics. And again, if you feel like I just called you out, you're not alone. And if you want to really notice how not alone you are, feel free to leave a little heart or something in the chat box. Let your fellow sisters know they are not alone. We were all taught this, all taught to be the good girl. And so we believed it was our character. But I want each of you to know there is absolutely zero shame in being the good girl because it was programmed into us. We did it to survive. But survive what? Why do we shrink? Why do we swallow our opinions? Why do we say yes when we want to say no? Where does this come from? Who is benefiting from our silence? You probably already know the answer, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Patriarchal beliefs have influenced culture, religion, parenting systems, and society as a whole. Simply put, it's a system designed to place men above women, designed to value stereotypical masculine qualities and shame stereotypical feminine qualities. It's a system of domination and therefore submission. If men are the dominant ones, women must be the submissive ones. So, through the eyes of patriarchy, women are seen purely as the bearer of children, caretakers of the home, and support for their husbands. A good girl will find a husband, and a good woman will keep a husband. Translation: if you're good, and we now know what that means, silent, submissive, small, then you'll be lovable. And if you're lovable, then you'll be chosen for marriage, which meant survival. Because at one time, this was true. For women, weren't even allowed to make money, own property, get an education, or even work. And only good girls were marriage material. So we learned being silent, sweet, selfless, submissive means being lovable, being worthy of marriage. If we are the peacekeepers and the people pleasers, then we'll be seen as valuable to society, a patriarchal society, that is. All the peace in the world placed on the shoulders of women. And so we took it on. To prioritize outer peace, we suffered inner chaos. We suffer so others don't because we were told to. And by others, I mostly mean men. Sorry, any men in the room. It's the truth. Sounds sweet, selfless, which is exactly what they want us to think, so we keep doing it. The women most desirable are the ones who serve, who speak softly, who smile without an opinion, who have no ambitions but to cook, clean, and care for her husband and children. She is a silent servant, not a woman. This was to ensure her husband had the world at his fingertips because she was the support system behind him. He rose because she shrank. He rested because she worked. He had more because she accepted less. And all the while, she is told that this makes her virtuous, desirable, wife material, a good woman. But does she feel this? Does the good girl enjoy all the shrinking and self-sacrificing and suppression? I think you know the answer to this too. So let's just take a brief moment. Before we jump into some of the costs of being the good girl, I want to give you each a moment to just pause and reflect on this for yourself. I encourage you to grab a scrap of paper and a pen, write this down. Obviously, journal is fantastic, but any paper, write it down, or even just think it in your head, because you know this is the part where we're starting to internalize and sit with all of what I'm talking about right now. So I want you to just reflect on this. What has your silence cost you? What is being the good girl cost you? What is shrinking cost you? Okay. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to write something down or think about it. What does being the good girl cost you? Because I know everyone here has They could probably write paragraphs on what it's cost them to be the good girl. I know you could. I could. What shrinking has cost you. But just whatever comes to mind. You don't have to write a lot. I just want you to really take all of this in. This is not something we're just reading about. You're here because this presentation resonated with something in you and it called out to you. There's a reason. So this is just a way to internalize it a bit, bring it inside. And would anyone like to share what they wrote? I know it can be kind of scary. You can also put it in the chat, but this is also part of the collective healing that women are doing is it's not just on our own. We don't do it on our own. Part of it is looking to our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our friends, and seeing that they've experienced the same thing. And being brave helps your sisters be brave. So would anyone like to share? I would love to hear a voice other than my own.
I'm Darlene. I stand to potentially lose $1 million in a divorce.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's definitely a big one. Wow. Anyone else?
I feel like there have been times when I've been conditioned to lose the trust that I have in myself because we're told to, small and silent and what is acceptable. And yeah, you're going to keep the peace, but not within yourself. Within yourself, it's like, oh, okay, I want to say no, but I'm saying yes. So can I even trust myself to stand firm in my no?
Yes. Oh, yes. I feel that one in my bones. Yes. We do. We start to get separated from ourselves. We don't start to have like this disconnect. We're not being honest with ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. Yeah. It's a big one. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, we have one.
I also feel like I don't have practice in expressing myself authentically. So now that feel like there's things I want to say, I feel like I really have to practice getting in touch with the right words, being conscious of everybody at the same time and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that crazy? We don't even know how to really express ourselves. We're like constantly self-monitoring. What are they thinking? What is that? Am I going to offend someone? Am I going to do this? Like, it's crazy. You've got like 50 voices in your head. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for those who chose to share. We'll keep going now. Okay. So I'm sure everything everyone has said has resonated with most of the women here, because these are things that we can hardly admit to ourselves. That's why we have this moment of reflection, because maybe we've never even really thought about these things. So here's the sad truth. Women are suffering from being so good, from being silent, from shrinking themselves constantly. You know the short-term costs. You feel them in the moment, from your gut tightening, or that awful feeling of being dismissed or disrespected or just like looked over. We all know that lump in our throat from words that have just gone unsaid. We wanted to say something and we swallowed it instead. But what about the long-term effects? These are the things most of us don't even know about. Did you know that being the good girl is having a profound effect on your mental health? Would you believe me if I said your exhaustion is tied to it? That one might be a little more believable, right? Being silent and self-sacrificing all the time leads to a serious disconnect from our body and our emotions as we just don't listen to them or express them. We suffer from low self-worth, bitterness, and resentment, and we're confused about even our own preferences, ultimately all contributing to a loss of our very identity. We just don't know. That's why speaking authentically is difficult. That's why we lose trust in ourselves. We don't know who the hell we are because we always silence her when she comes up. Silence our emotions, our needs, our opinions. But these are what make us individual humans. This suffering in silence has never benefited us, despite what we, our mothers, our grandmothers, and beyond have been told. We played the part for survival, but times have changed. We no longer need to be silent to survive. And by continuing this silence, especially when we aren't sure why, we are causing ourselves long-term harm. Being the good girl is detrimental to our health and well-being, and it's time we talked about it. And that's what I'm here for. So now that we know very well who the good girl is, and we now know that she's not helping anyone, what's the alternative? How do we shed this programming? How do we stop being silent and start speaking up for ourselves, especially in conflict when it's the hardest? We begin to reclaim personal sovereignty. Think of sovereignty as your roots. They are what ground you. It is the unwavering ownership of your truth, values, and voice, even in the face of disapproval. You can think of it as the opposite of the good girl if that helps, but it basically just means not shrinking to appease others. It means not holding back your opinions or needs because you fear it might make you opinionated or needy and therefore unlovable. And it's seen as an act of rebellion by those who benefit off our silence and self-sacrifice. That's just the truth of it. So if we can manage to shed the good girl, then who will we be? I'd like to introduce you to your future self, the sovereign woman. And unlike the good girl who seeks to simply survive, the sovereign woman seeks to thrive. The first thing to know about the sovereign woman is she knows her worth is innate and leads from that. This allows her to express her opinions, her emotions, her needs, her preferences without feeling like she needs to minimize herself. She is not too much for expressing herself, even if it does make someone uncomfortable. If someone is uncomfortable, she knows it's their problem, not hers. She is not the caretaker of everyone else's insecurities. Therefore, she doesn't sacrifice her own happiness for others, except maybe occasionally she'll put her children first. But this is not a rule. This doesn't make her selfish. This makes her sustainable. Okay, repeat that in your head with me. This does not make her selfish. This makes her sustainable. This is a key thing to learn because we're so taught that all of this sounds selfish. It's not. And if we can become this woman, what do we gain? What freedoms does the sovereign woman claim? For one thing, she knows when to say no and does so without apology. That's a key one, no apologies. Whether that's no to the suggested solution at work, or no to the flavor of ice cream proposed, or no to giving consent. No is a powerful thing, and we must risk being disliked for using it. What else does she gain? Well, she stops gaslighting herself and trusts her own perceptions. She knows what she's experienced. She knows what she heard. She trusts her gut. She stops apologizing for literally everything, for disagreeing, for feeling, for having an opinion, especially when it differs from others in the room. I'm sorry is no longer her most used phrase because she knows she has no reason to feel sorry. She realizes that she only used to say sorry before because she felt like she couldn't take up space, couldn't disagree, didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. She was sorry for existing. And if you're a sovereign woman, you stop apologizing for existing. The sovereign woman puts up boundaries like she's building a sanctuary. She knows what she's willing to tolerate and what she isn't. She protects her peace. She acts in her best interests. Her happiness and comfort can finally be prioritized without guilt. It's not shameful or selfish for a woman to consider her happiness when a man easily considers his. It is not admirable when a woman puts her happiness last. It's just expected in our culture. But we know that's some BS programming. Women have every right to be happy. So the sovereign woman sees the movie she wants to see. She hangs out with the friends that support her. She doesn't go to an event she knows she'll be miserable at. And the big one, the really big one, she leaves relationships if they are causing her misery. If she finds herself in or facing a situation wherein her self-worth will suffer, her joy will be ignored, or her voice will be suppressed, she simply opts out, guilt-free, because she knows if she doesn't put herself first, no one will. Sit with that a moment. If you don't put yourself first, no one will. So, does the sovereign woman sound like someone you'd like to be? Does she sound happy, expressed, respected? Does she have self-worth? You bet. And all she needed to do was be brave and risk not being liked by those who benefited off her being the all-sacrificing, silent good girl. It's as simple as that. So let's take a look at these women side by side, okay? We have our good girl on the left. She gets her self-worth from the approval of others and is constantly denying her opinions, desires, needs, and feelings. She is easily recognized by her submissive posture, her downturned eyes, and her soft tone. Her entire presence is soft, and therefore she is easily ignored. And on the right, we have our sovereign woman. Because she knows her worth is innate, she does not hinge her value on the approval of others. She is recognized by her erect posture, her eye contact, her confident tone. Her entire presence is confident, making her much more difficult to ignore. And because of that, yes, patriarchy shames her by calling her a host of names: bossy, nasty, loud, difficult, and of course, the B word. These are attempts to shame the sovereign woman back into her good girl box by making her feel unlovable, even mean. But as we've seen, she's not being mean. She's simply being honest and not shrinking to be loved. But this is seen as a threat to those who benefit from her self-sacrifice. Because if she starts to prioritize herself, she stops prioritizing everybody else. We must become her anyway. Because the truth is that a sovereign woman does look out for others, her community, her friends, her children, and yes, her partners. She just doesn't put herself last anymore. She isn't invisible. She has self-worth. The sovereign woman is simply a woman who has stepped out of surviving and started thriving. I will say this once, but I will say it clearly. Becoming the sovereign woman means you're starting to love yourself. And if that makes you less lovable to others, you must ask yourself, would you rather love yourself or be seen as lovable to others who prefer you stay small and silent? Which is real love. Yeah. Now, if you're with me, let's start to embody some of this. So how do we start to reclaim our sovereignty? Well, I'm going to burst any bubbles right now. It is not an overnight fix. And often, unfortunately, it's more of a one step forward, two step back kind of deal. It's just the way programming works. But the point is that we can reclaim our personal sovereignty, and each day, each interaction, each conflict is a fresh opportunity to practice. And today, you're going to walk away with 2 simple tools you can start practicing immediately. The first is the sovereign pause, and the second is the sovereign sentence. Okay. Feel free to take out your notes if you want to take notes, but you will get these slides at the end of today. But if anything decides to come up and you want to write anything down, feel free to. So the sovereign pause. The sovereign pause is essentially just giving ourselves space to feel, not just react. Our pause brings us power, brings it right back in. We are not pausing to appease anyone. We're not pausing out of fear. We're pausing so that we can find our truth. An example would be, let's say your boss just asked you to stay late to work on a project that could have been completed by others, but it wasn't, and he really needs your help. He would really, really appreciate it. The good girl instincts want you to say immediately, yes, sure, of course I would. I'd be happy to. So we get the smile and the spoken or unspoken good girl pat on the head. Refrain. This takes great strength, but it does get easier with practice as you reclaim your self-worth. Remember, our worth is tightly wound with our good girl compliments. So when we don't get the good girl, we feel bad. This is by design, but it is false. Sit with the discomfort of not being his savior. That's all it takes. A pause, a breath. Pause to think about if you have the time. Think about if you want to work extra. Consider the benefits for you, not just for your boss. And yes, you can, of course, still choose to say, yes, sure, I'd be happy to. But you'll have given it thought and consciously chosen to say yes. It wasn't out of instinct, out of fear of being disliked. So we take a breath in that pause. We get a boost of oxygen to our brain, which increases our cognitive functions like decision-making and memory. It's twofold, this pause. Some other examples when you could use this pause, specifically in conflict, could be, for example, maybe when your partner dismisses your feelings with, you're overreacting. Don't react in anger back. Take a breath. Consider what you want to say. Maybe a coworker makes a sexist or a racist joke. Don't laugh in your discomfort. Take a breath. Consider how that made you feel and how you would like to respond. If a parent criticizes how you're raising your kids, don't agree with them just to keep the peace. Take a breath, a pause, and consider how you really feel before responding. How did that comment make you feel? If someone asks you to volunteer your time again when you're just exhausted, don't immediately agree because you know how much they would appreciate it. Take a breath consider if you want more work. And it can even be with a friend. If they pressure you into going somewhere that you don't really want to, you don't want to go, don't smile and agree and then be miserable the whole time. Instead, take a breath. Consider if you would enjoy this event, this activity. That's it. It's a pause. It's refraining from that instinctual response. And if you take a breath, it ensures you pause and it ensures you're going to be thinking better. So you can even think of it as the sovereign breath. Just one breath before responding to anything. One breath. Sounds simple. It's harder than it sounds, I promise. But this is where we start. We must start with the basics. We must start with things that sound easy because they won't be as easy. Next, we have the sovereign sentence. Okay. This next tool, it takes even more practice because it requires that we use words. And these words, we've been trained to think that they're mean or selfish. But I promise they're not. And if you aren't convinced, just imagine if a man were to use these sentences, if you'd think he was mean or selfish. Odds are you wouldn't. Sentences like, I disagree, but I still care about this relationship. Something about that doesn't sit right with me. No, that won't work for me. Let's circle back when I'm grounded. I need a moment before I can respond to that. Even here's what's true for me. Notice that none of them say sorry, and none of them give excuses. They set boundaries, they express needs, and they give you the time and space you may need. All these sentences do is serve to advocate for yourself. So I'm going to do something. I want to call on each of you now to choose a sentence from the screen and say it out loud. Shaky breath, laughing, whatever comes. Choose one and say it out loud with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. No, that won't work for me. I hope you all chose a sentence and said it out loud, because this is part of it, not just writing our reflections, right? But saying these words and seeing how we react to them. How did they feel? Kind of scary a little bit. Maybe we've never used a sentence like this, but also empowering, right? That's the idea. You're simply reclaiming power that was always yours. We're undoing the programming and planting truth. Okay. So well done. Those are your 2 tools. I'm going to take another moment to pause. Okay. I would love for each of you to just close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes and visualize the next moment of friction that you may have. Could be with a boss, a partner, a friend. And imagine what sovereignty would feel like in that moment of conflict. How would you move? How would you breathe? What words would you speak? What's your eye contact? Do you feel tightness in your throat and gut, or do you feel open? Just imagine it. When we imagine it first, the brain doesn't really know the difference, okay? That's the special weakness of the brain. The brain doesn't know the difference. If you imagine this situation where you have reclaimed your power, where you're standing in your sovereignty in the midst of conflict, your brain thinks it happened. Magic can happen through visualization, okay? That's the power. So that's why we're visualizing it, because your body needs to see and feel what it is like to be the sovereign woman. So If using these sentences, if pausing, if that sounds like too much, keep practicing the visualization. Keep imagining this future self of yours, expressing her needs, sharing her thoughts, saying no, putting up boundaries. Just keep imagining her, and eventually she won't feel so scary and foreign. Just imagine one day your needs get met, your boundaries are respected, your opinions are expressed. You aren't over apologizing. You get time to think before responding. You get to prioritize your inner peace. Sounds wonderful, right? Our silence may have been taught, but our sovereignty, that's ancestral. The sovereign woman lives in us, in our lineage. No matter your ethnicity, you have a woman down the line, many, who chose to break the silence. I want to cast a spotlight on a few women from my cover slide, women who chose sovereignty and risked being disliked. Sojourner Truth, the truth teller. Formerly enslaved, she became a fierce abolitionist and women's rights activist. She spoke up boldly in rooms full of men where she was not supposed to speak at all. She gave her famous "Ain't I a Woman" speech, which broke silences with thunder. She embodies verbal courage, refusal to stay silent, and speaking truth in public, even when you're dismissed. We have Queen Liliuokalani, the graceful resistor. She was the last reigning monarch of the Hawaiian kingdom, deposed by American interests. She refused to abdicate her people's rights, even when imprisoned. She led with dignity, cultural pride, and unshakable moral clarity, choosing her people over pleasing the powerful. She represents graceful resistance and emotional sovereignty in the face of injustice. And lastly, Savitribai Phule, the rebel educator, a Dalit woman in 1800s India who became the first female teacher and fought for women's education despite intense caste and gender backlash. She endured violence and social rejection to educate girls, lower caste children, and widows. And she lit a fire that still burns today in the women of India. She represents everyday persistent sovereignty, standing firm in what's right, even when you're spat on, literally. The women you saw in the front slide, all women who rebelled, who spoke out, who disobeyed, who refused to shrink, who said no to being silenced, either when in conflict or knowing it would cause conflict. These women didn't care about being liked or being nice. They saw through the lie of the good girl and knew if they remained the good girl, they would suffer. Their kingdoms and villages would suffer, and future generations would suffer. It was worth it for them. And I believe it's a risk every woman needs to take. If these women can do it, I know each of us can. And the more we each step out of the good girl and into the sovereign woman, the more courage we'll give our sisters and daughters to do the same. The sovereign woman is not a dream, not reserved only for ancient queens and first female somethings, but for each of us. The sovereign woman within each of us is waking up. It's not going to happen in one big breath, but in tiny sips, moment by moment. In the word no, in the swallowing of an apology instead of an opinion, in the eye contact you make instead of shrinking. Be kind to yourself as you reclaim her, for once you do, she's going to be phenomenal to you. Thank you so much for attending today. Again, my name is Shelby K. Morrison, and I so appreciate you taking the time to enjoy some of this forbidden fruit with me. You can follow me on social or tune into my podcast, The Serpent Signal, to continue the journey if today's presentation resonated. And now I'd love to open it up for a bit of a share circle now. So feel free to ask questions, offer comments. How do you feel after all this? What are you thinking? Anything you'd like to share with other women listening? The circle is yours.
Hi, am I heard?
Yes.
I would just like to say that what I've experienced as an older lady is that if I do speak up strongly about something, my competence is questioned, like whether or not I'm informed enough about the topic or whether I misunderstood something, or maybe it's because I'm older and I didn't see and hear what I was supposed to see. So I just find when I do speak up, and I'm talking about here on Hawaii Island, that I will have people chip away at my credibility, which is just something I wondered if others experience.
Would anyone else like to respond? If not, I'll take it. I know personally that's definitely happened. Yes, go ahead. If you've got a hand raised, feel free to unmute.
I feel like men may do that, but also women have do that to me. Maybe older women. If I speak up, like my teachers or something, like especially teachers, if I speak up about something, I'm, tamped back down into my place. And maybe that's a different kind of power situation going on, but it's still, my credibility feels very dampened. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think any woman who's even attempted to get a job in a male-dominated field, or is the token woman at the table, is can definitely relate to that, even more, because it is we're representing the minority, and we're breaking into areas where we're not supposed to be. And once upon a time, women were silent, and so it's a threat. And that's what I need every woman here to know, is that by speaking up, by sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings, it kind of comes off as a threat to them. They don't know how to handle it. And 9 times out of 10, it's because you're making them uncomfortable. Your knowledge is making me feel dumb. You're expressing your emotions, which is making me feel uncomfortable because I don't know how to handle that. And maybe I'm the cause of it. So I need you to not express yourself so I feel better.
Right.
But we do it anyway. Speak up anyway, because you're not the problem. You have confidence in what you're saying. You have the education, the knowledge, the experience to speak up. Your opinions are valid. Your emotions are valid. And this is part of it. This is why it's so hard to step out of this conditioning, because that's exactly what it is. It's programmed into us to shrink back so we don't make anyone uncomfortable. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that if you share something and it makes people uncomfortable, they may just start to chip away at you personally, And so it's good to kind of be prepared for that, just that they may say you're too new to the island, or a woman, or um, didn't go to college, or whatever little, or maybe that, oh, you um, are divorced and don't know anything about married couples, or whatever they can do to discredit. That seems to be what I see happen, even when I appropriately share something uh, in a way that might be helpful. And I think for most people who maybe hear it, they are helped, but you get those few people that kind of turn it personal and try to chip away at the person rather than the idea that you shared. So that's just something for me to have to maybe prepare myself for a little bit, mentally prepare myself for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And knowing that, right? Like knowing, okay, I mean, and that's where our fear comes. That's why we don't want to speak up. That's why we don't want to share what we're thinking or feeling, because we know I'm going to ruffle some feathers. People don't want to hear this. So it's safer for us to not say anything. So, right, we prioritize that outer peace and suffer the inner chaos. But just know that if you are speaking up, there's a reason. There is a reason. So you mentioned specifically, oh, you're divorced. You don't know what marriage life is like. Actually, I do, because I was divorced, which means I was married. If they're going to attack your education, actually, where did you get your degree? And actually, you don't need a degree to say what I'm going to say. Clamp back at it. Clamp back at it. Attack their attack. If they're going to attack you, tear it down. Pull out all of the fire in whatever it is that they're going to say. Oh, well, you're new to the island. Okay. Does that mean my opinion's suddenly less valid? Does that mean I don't have a brain for myself? Like, put the discomfort back on them. And most of the times they'll pull back. Okay. They tried. They're going to try one quick little comment to make you shush. And if you resist and push back anyway, guarantee it usually, okay, it stops. They will try to silence you, but you don't have to take it. I know that seems like step 2, sovereign woman, but step 1 is speaking up. Step 2 is clamping back when they try to silence you. But that's going to be part of it. And that's part of the more self-worth we have, the more confidence we have, the more we'll be able, those things will bounce off of us. Pew, pew, pew. We'll just have our armor on because we know they're going to try to attack this. Pathetic. Go ahead. Come at me with your best shot. Oh, that's cute. You think because I have this or this or this that I don't have a valid opinion. That's cute. That's where we eventually get to where everything they try to say is laughable. That's cute. You're trying to chip away at me. That's cute. Anyone else? You guys, the chat is just so lovely. I'm just now being able to take a look. See, you guys are so not alone. Yes. Yeah. So I encourage everyone to take a few opportunities today, this week, this month, and step into the sovereign woman and just know she is going to feel uncomfortable. She is. The dress is going to be too big, the high heels, the boots, whatever you've got, however you envision this awesome woman, they're going to be too big for you, right? Because the sovereign woman takes up space. She does not shrink. So those clothes are going to feel super baggy. They're not going to feel comfortable. That's okay. Put them on. You will grow into them. She's not going to feel authentic at first. Your voice will shake. It will. Your heart is going to be hammering in your chest. It's okay. It's okay. That's perfectly normal. Because as I said, your brain is telling you danger, danger, danger. So we are literally feeling like we are going into a fight. And that's terrifying. It's terrifying. That's okay. Let it be terrifying and speak anyway. Think of those women from the slide. Embody them. If you need to put on the crown or put on the shawl or put on the armor of some woman that spoke up and embody her, do so. Do so. But just know it's okay to be scared and it's okay for people to get their feathers ruffled. That you will. You will. The good girl is meant to be invisible, right? The sovereign woman, so difficult to ignore. But that's okay. That's okay. It's just going to take some time. I have a question here. It looks like sometimes saying, I'm confused. Could you explain what you mean? Yes, making them explicit. Yes, what shouldn't be said in the first place. Yes, yes. Yes, that's a perfect clap back. I'm sorry, could you tell me more about what you think about that? Put them on the spot. Put that discomfort right back on them. It's not yours. It's not yours. And just trust that if they're making you feel uncomfortable, it is because they are uncomfortable first. So give it back to them. It's not yours. It is not your shame. It is not your embarrassment to take on. Give it back to them. It'll take practice, but you can do it. You really can do it. Practice, practice, practice. Small sips, right? Small sips, not a big gulp. Start with the sovereign pause. Start with the sovereign sentence. And any gentlemen that are with us, encourage your sisters, your neighbors, the women you know, encourage them to speak up. Encourage them to step into the sovereign women, because sovereign women are going to help rebuild the world that we need. We need strong women. We need women willing to step in, to express themselves. We want our women healthy, right? And if you're a man here and you care about the women in your lives, you want them healthy. You don't want them having chaos inside just to keep the peace. And if you're a man who has joined us, I thank you for being a part of this discussion, because you are part of the solution. So welcome. So thank you all so much for having me. I hope I see you in something in the future, and mahalo.
Thank you, Shelby. Thank you all for coming today. As a reminder, please take a few minutes to fill out the short survey online. I've gone ahead and put the link in the chat. Check your emails in the coming days for the slides and a handout video link and a survey link. Mahalo, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.